We've talked about so much here. I just wanted to give you an opportunity. Our poor human brains can only remember about two or three things at a time. But if there was one takeaway that you wanted the other C-suite executives, your peers that are going to be consuming this podcast, that you wanted them to take away from our entire conversation, what's the most important thing you'd want them to remember?
Perhaps like one of the first things we were talking about, which is setting the rules of engagement around teams. It's just totally fair to draw those lines and create more formality between teams. It's viewed maybe as a process problem, or maybe we're adding too much process. By simply just creating those guardrails, you free up so much internal discussion and question marks and back and forth that need to happen like between the teams below you. I would just like highly encourage like a very formal service level agreement between organizations. So people are just very clear on what the expectations are. I think it frees up a lot of time following that. The things that we haven't talked about, if I were to say as CRO, one of the most important things that I think I've learned to develop over the course of my journey in this role, started probably as a CMO and then into CRO, is that your job is really equity improvement. It really is about the value, that enterprise value that you're creating for the business. Not to think of it so acutely as like, we're trying to make the business more money. It's like really like this is the CRO's job, is to figure out how we acquire more customers and keep them in a better, healthier like version of the business. And the quicker you can find a framework, I like the Enterprise 5 framework, which is like what framework for your company means you've created enterprise value. I think that far too often CROs really just view their role very acutely like, oh, new ARR or NDR or some of the like inputs. But I think there's some like larger like thematic things that a CRO really needs to think about collectively. I think these 5 things, I use the iconic Enterprise 5. Happy to share that link after, Steve, and any of the materials that go out. But basically, those are 5 metrics that they have said are the 5 most important metrics for what has been representative of the value of the highest valuations of their most valuable portfolio companies. Year over year growth is one of them, obviously, like net dollar retention is one of them, but rule of 40, ARR per FTE, magic number. There's these 5 metrics that collectively say, like, you've made it. We didn't talk about that specifically, but if I were a CRO, and again, I'm an older CRO now, but if I was earlier on in my career, I think one of the first alignment exercises I would have as a CRO is to make sure you're very clear on like which 5 metrics matter most to the board and the business to say, this is what great enterprise value would look like for this company.